Okay, guys, let's get right into the stock market technical analysis. We're going to go ahead and look at the tech sector, some of these FANG stocks. Just browse around, look for anything interesting, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. So we'll start off today with triple Qs. Obviously, that's been pretty much where most of the rally all year long has been concentrated within the FANG stocks, and they've made up for most of the gains. So I think it's very important to continue to watch those charts. Triple Qs really is, it's really mostly Apple and Microsoft, but you've got some of the other ones, Google, Amazon, that make up heavy weightings within that. I think it's about 4 or 5 stocks or maybe about 6 stocks that make up really the majority of what this index is. So that is one thing to just keep note of. When you're looking at triple Qs, you're looking at the big mega cap tech stocks, and that's pretty much it. On the, if I go down to the daily, I was having some issues earlier with my trading view charts. I did get them back by restarting my computer. On the daily chart, there's really no change today. You can see we're kind of coming into an area that looks like the sellers are showing up. They've been selling it at this level, but it's not really moving down. We're still at the level, so there's not enough here for me to say that it's like a full-on short. I did stop out of the short. I put a small short on, kind of a starter short on the other day, and then if I go down to the hourly, you can see here basically we did kind of start to break down, and the level on triple Qs was right about in here. This was kind of your breakdown level, which is roughly, it's about the 354.12. So that's on the triple Qs. It started to break down, looking good. But in the pre-market of the this morning, we started to pop on the NASDAQ future. So I covered my short trade for about a 0.36% loss, very, very small loss on a starting short position. So nothing that really is, that really matters too much. But again, took a shot at it, didn't seem to really want to go. So we're going to keep our stops tight until we see some follow through on some trades. So that's one thing to take note of. Not really short right now. I'm just kind of flat, the triple Qs. The reason why I was getting out, let me show you the futures, and I submitted this to the private member group this morning. So the level that I was really watching on the futures was right about here, 14,506. That level right there, we kind of held that, and then when we took it out right here on this candle, that's what really ushered in the some selling actually. Today, dip buyers obviously stepped in, and I think that's going to be, you're going to have at least the initial reaction. The dip buyers are going to step in just right out the gates. That's just probably going to remain until we start making a trending pattern lower, so lower highs and lower lows. But the initial reaction, the dip buyers stepped in. They rallied it back up. And the break above, we traded pretty much all morning and all night about flat. But this price action right in here, all right when I saw that candle starting to recover, and especially this one right here, that was in the pre-market. I told everyone that I was closing my short that I had entered and just taking a pretty small loss, but needed to just get out, and we'll wait for a better opportunity. And sure enough, that was the right move, because as soon as the market opened, the market just pretty much went straight up. Now they did sell into that, and so that's what we want to take note of. For now, I'm kind of watching this trend line here on the futures. The chart's a lot cleaner on the futures right now than it is on the triple Q, so I'm more focused on that one, but equally I do want to pay attention to the triple Qs. On the futures, the NASDAQ futures, I've got some support, this trend line right here that we pretty much have been holding all day and continue to hold. We got 10 minutes left, whether they break it down or not. It's end of the day breakdown like that in the last 10 minutes is not going to be anything I'm going to be taking. I'll just wait till next week to see how next week trades out. I suspect it'll just hold, and they'll probably bounce it into the close. Okay, so there's no real breakdown right now, and So we need to wait, all right? And ultimately what I'd really like to see is a break back down below this 14,505 for my next sell signal. Okay, we got a sell signal here. Didn't work out, closed out. You know, I was looking for more follow through to the downside, not just this one day dip. And then the buyer stepped in, and so far we're still just, you know, above that. So I need to see that really break down in order to initiate that sell signal again. The high that we made today, you'll notice here on the futures, it popped up and pretty much made an equal high. Here's your former high, okay? And then here is an equal high right there on the hourly chart. That high is a divergent high, all right? So you've got basically just, you know, more highs and just continuation of the divergence. So it tells me, you know, the selling should step in, you know, but what we, you know, divergence doesn't tell me to short, okay? A lot of people get that confused. When I talk about divergence, that doesn't mean just short because we have divergence. What it means is, for one thing, usually it means I don't want to go long. And the other is I'm looking for I'm looking for sell signals. I'm looking for breaks of trendline support for the most part. And those are my sell signals. So right now, that's what I'm looking for, breaks of trendline support because we have divergence. I don't have that break of trendline support yet, so I don't have a sell signal, so no reason to get short yet. So that's it on the futures. If I go back to triple Qs, you can see here the interesting thing on the daily chart. So here's the daily, and we're not confirmed yet, but I've got it circled. But you can see here, we have just continued to extend this negative divergence. All right, the divergence really showed up. You know, you've been rallying since about January of this year. The divergence really started to show up when you started to make new highs, roughly right in here. Okay, so back in about March time frame or so is where the divergence really started to show up, and again, I started shorting kind of in that area, and then it was like sideways, so there was no reason to really get out of the trade because we were building divergence and building this kind of sideways pattern, but it broke to the upside, and as soon as it started to break, that's where we stopped out of. And so that was that, all right? And that was that trade. Now we've obviously made a new high, and we're kind of running up, but we still have that negative divergence. And if I zoom in on the PPO, you can see it's starting to turn down. Haven't crossed over yet, so you haven't confirmed that, but it's definitely starting to turn down. So what I'll be looking for, a couple things, to set up another short trade, one that has a high probability of working. Of course, no guarantees. I need to see the PPO do a bearish crossover on the daily chart. That will help. Okay. That's going to help confirm that divergence. And then ultimately, we'll need to see some trend lines starting to break. All right. And we just don't have that as of today. And we're not going to have it going into the close. Yeah, that's it on Triple Qs. This is a big, messy chart. So as things start to, I'll probably have to do some work cleaning this chart up. IWM, again, it did rally to that rally point that I talked about days ago. When we started to break out right in here, this candle right there, I said it's pretty good likelihood that we're going to head up to this trend line right up in here, about 187.50. All right, that trend line that's kind of your former support, and we had lots of reactions there. And I pointed this out in the past, a couple days ago when we saw that breakout. Go back and watch my video from last Friday, and you'll see me talk about that. But there it is, hit that trend line resistance and getting a reaction off of that. So that's probably it for the IWM. It could continue to grind. Sometimes you can sit there and grind along a trend line for a little bit, but we're definitely getting that reaction off of that. I don't see a short here that I necessarily want to take, but something to keep in mind. We'll just continue to watch that. Home builders, they're definitely set up. They're probably one of the most bearish looking charts, although the price action has continued to go higher. That doesn't mean that the chart and the setup is not there for a short trade. Okay, so if you're just chasing price, then again, you're never going to catch the next move. You're basically just waiting for price to reverse, and that's when you can become bearish, I guess. But in general, this chart is set up for a bearish setup. Not shortable yet because we don't have a break at trendline support, but we have a nice bearish rising wedge, big, huge bearish rising wedge. We have large negative divergence that's been building for quite a while on this DHI, which is a home builder. And we're just compressing within this bearish rising wedge. For me, I'm not really interested in taking it at resistance right now. Given the market momentum has been kind of a mania, you can see these things kind of pop to the upside and flush out a bunch of shorts before moving down. So rather than maybe have to ride out some sort of move like that, what I'd rather do is just wait for a break of trendline support, which is down here. So there's support on the daily, okay? A break of that should usher in a decent amount of selling, and we'll set this up for a nice move to the downside. Okay, so not going to get that today, but we'll keep an eye on that. And XHB, which is the home builder ETF, setup very similar. Bearish rising wedge, negative divergence. No reason to short though yet because we're still within that wedge. And you can see basically, look, you got support. This week it hit support, or last week I guess, just bounced right pretty much up to resistance. Could go up a little bit more because that's resistance up there. Until I see a break of the wedge, I'm not interested. But negative divergence, bearish rising wedge, those are all setups for a downside move. We just need to see break of support. Okay, GDX, this is your gold miners. Again, we have an uptrend line to watch, which is basically here on the daily. All right, several reactions there. But recently you can see they stepped in a little early before we hit that trend line. Bounced it, so I could see us still pulling back to that trend line. There's no indication that we're not going to do that. We're not at support, so it's not objective at the level that we're at. If we pull back to support, hit that trend line support, then that would be an objective long there. Until then, it's, again, I think we probably are going to come down and hit that. Okay, this is MasterCard and also Visa. Talked about those in the recent last few weeks. Still looks like a good short. At the end of the day, you've got an uptrend line here. All right, we're walking up the uptrend line. We had negative divergence that was building for a while. So again, that's not that you don't want to short while you have the divergence. You want to short when you break trend. Broke trend basically here. So that was your sell signal. They rallied it for a back test, rejected. Rallied it for a back test, rejected. Okay, so we're just, a couple back tests of that trend line. Both were rejected. We're sitting there at just what looks to kind of be a support level, about 369.50. A break below that should usher in, should start this to the move to the downside. All right, the continuation to the downside. And that's the way I'm leaning. That's the way I am positioned short on this one. And looking to add to it if we start taking out some of these lows right in here. That's MasterCard. Oh, and then if it does start to work out, profit targets, we had a level of support right in here, 356.11, okay? And then the 200-day and good support right down in about this 343-ish area. You can see a cluster of reactions there and there. So that's really a decent area of support where I would expect probably a tradable bounce, maybe something like that, or even potentially higher. Yeah, so that one looks okay. And then Visa, very similar looking. You can see uptrend line here, broke support, back test 1, back test 2, and, continuing to kind of roll down. But, these aren't going to go anywhere until the market decides to roll over. And the market's not going to roll over until the large cap tech stocks roll over. It's just the weighting that those things have in all kinds of sectors and indices won't allow the mathematic, the mechanics of the market to really roll over. They're just too heavily weighted. So let's take a look at some of these FANG stocks. Amazon's interesting. Amazon, I have this downtrend line. This never was really a valid trend line. I talked about it being just a potential because I only had 2 data points. I really don't have a very clean downtrend line that I can mark out. If I move it and connect this, I still only have 2 data points. I've always only had 2. So there's really been no consistent downtrend line on this one. So something to take note of on that. That's not the most important thing. The thing that I'm watching, all right, is if I get rid of that, you have an uptrend line right here to watch on the daily. You can see we're just walking up. Lots of reactions along this trend line right here. And we made a new high. The one thing is the former high, which was this island reversal candle, it did prove to be a reversal. I was thinking it was going to be more of a reversal, but you did get a drop of about 17-18% from that candle. So it was a reversal, and then that was burned through. All right, you burned through it right there on the May 17th is when you burned through that reversal candle, and that was no longer a valid topping stick, and it's been up ever since. And we're making a new high from that former high, but that's a divergent high. You can see here on the PPO, we are just right there. Boom. New high, but lower momentum, and you're getting the bearish PPO crossover. You actually do have it. So that's confirmed divergence on that one. So this one's on watch for a breakdown for a sell signal. And the trend line right here, a break of that will set this up for a move lower. We don't have a break yet, so it's not an actionable trade. It's just something to watch. The other thing is, and I did talk about this back here, when Amazon, when it was kind of trading all down through here, we never had negative divergence on Amazon. We were making lower prices, okay? And we also had lower momentum. So it wasn't diverging, all right? But now with this new move up and this new high that it's just made over the former high right there, you now have negative divergence. So this is setting up bearish. We just need the sell signal, and you start these fangs are probably all going to break right around the same time. So we'll wait for that breakdown. Google did burn through its divergence on the daily chart, so it ran up and made a new high. There is a support. It's a resistance level / support. It's right about here at 122.66, and we're really just kind of holding on that right there, right above that support level. Pretty much closing on it today. You can see that right there. So again, we need to see a failure, a breakdown of this level for the next sell signal on this one. No divergence on the daily. If I look at the hourly, though, we are starting to get it now on the hourly. We have divergent high here on the hourly. Okay, so you've got momentum moving lower. You're kind of popping, making higher highs, and getting sold into. So that's the thing. When you see divergence, divergence, in order to have divergence, you have to make a new higher high in price, but typically those get sold into. So when you see that higher high, oftentimes that's an opportunity to either take profit or short, although, we need to see a break of trend line support in order to trigger that. We just don't have that here on Google. So again, it could continue to diverge. We could run up and make a new high. That's possible. There's no reason that can't happen here. And then on Google, I've got this trend line right here that I think probably will come into play. It's only 2 data points now, so maybe we hit it and get another bounce. But ultimately, I'd be looking for that to break on the daily chart to signal a larger move to the downside. Oh, something else I want to point out, it's going back to Amazon. I know sometimes you get stuck in the day-to-day price action, but I want to look at the weekly chart, and here's something to kind of take note of. This is an Amazon chart on the weekly chart going all the way back to the IPO timeframe of 1997. Okay, in Amazon, you can see clear uptrend, all right, on this logarithmic chart. We have lots of reactions where we've hit that support, and as I zoom in, boom, there's a big weekly sell signal on a long-term bull market in Amazon, all right? That trend line was also confirmed again after it broke, all right, impulsive selling, and then it came back up for a back test right here, okay, and hit that, and that's exactly where it was rejected at, and from there, another move lower. So, again, to me, this just seems like a bear market rally. If I draw out a weekly chart like this, okay, on Amazon, you can see you've got basically a reaction. There's your high. There's another reaction, and right here where we're at is another reaction. No sell signal yet, obviously, on the weekly chart, but we're right there at that potential resistance. We broke a long-term upward bull market. This is not, you're not going to have a bull market that lasts that long just get a little break of the trend line and then off to another bull market. This is a bear market rally, guys. At least in Amazon, all right? It's very clear that it is. Now, we need to see it turn down here. So that's what I'll be looking for. That's a weekly chart. And Amazon's heavily weighted. Now, we don't see the same look in all the FANG stocks. This is just Amazon specific. But it is a heavy hitter in the indices in terms of its weighting. So, well, since I'm on the weekly chart, we'll move over to Apple Weekly. You can see the high. This is the all-time high in Apple, which was about 181.50. All right, on a weekly closing basis. So that's the highest it ever closed or opened the week, essentially, actually. And then as I zoom in, you can see we basically last week closed there. And this week, although, they popped it above intra-week, by the end of the week, closed right back on that line. So that is resistance. I suspect we're going to get some selling starting next week. No sell signals yet. So we'll need to see that stuff before we, jump back in. And I've kind of pointed out what I'm looking for. But that is the weekly chart on Amazon. Double top right now, likely going to get sold into. If I go down to the daily on Apple, here it is. On Apple, you've got, that price action really just kind of popped up and was grinding around at that level all day. No real reason to sell. No sell signal there. However, if you look at Apple on the momentum indicators, we still have negative divergence. Let me zoom it in. Look, it's still there, all right? You've got momentum this entire year, for the most part, has been fading, and prices have been moving higher, all right? That's what divergence is, but no sell signal yet. So this is just on watch again. And we'll just wait for a breakdown. Now, I did have a bearish rising wedge. It's kind of gotten a little messy now. I almost need to adjust it just to kind of capture some of these additional data points. What I'll be doing at this point is waiting for a break of trend line support, which really is kind of down here, this trend line down here. All right, it's not the cleanest, but need to see some lower support levels get taken out for a sell signal on Apple. Meta, you've got a bearish rising wedge. Okay, big, long bearish rising wedge. It's been in play pretty much since November. And it's a divergent wedge, which really started to diverge right about in here. Again, back in the March timeframe is where the divergence starting to show up. That divergence has extended since that time frame. And this move higher that we've seen over the last few weeks has just extended the divergence. All right, and they still have that right there. See the bearish PPO crossover helping confirm that divergence. So this one's ripe to break down. Okay, we don't have a sell signal, so we can't short it yet. What I'm looking for is a break of this trend line right here. Support, 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 and a break. We're right on it. We need to see a break, whether it's a gap down or however it comes. Will be the sell signal. You'll probably get a gap down and then maybe a little bounce and then it'll roll over. Okay, so because the dip buyers, there's a lot of dip buyers that won't realize that we broke a major trend. So if it breaks down, the dip buyers might initially step in, but then the big sellers that realize that the trend is broken will step in and sell it on rallies, and it will be a sell the rip stock. We don't have that yet, so no reason to short. We need to see that sell signal, but that's that one. And then Microsoft still has negative divergence. See that on the daily? Look, you've got a high and a lower high. You have a bullish or a bearish PPO crossover right there, confirming the extension of that divergence. And this most recent high, this price action, is a divergent high that's very likely going to get sold into. Okay, so we'll watch for we're going to watch for weakness in these FANG stocks here next week. Until we see it, I can take little shots, and that's kind of where I'm kind of the mode I'm in. I'll take shots when I have it, but I'm not gonna, I'm gonna stop out quick. Okay, I'm keeping really tight stops on any short trades that I'm initiating because the market has been in a mania mode, so they can continue to make new divergences and pop it. But we start to get sell signals, and things start to kind of shape up, and we can get some traction to the downside, then I'll look to add to a trade. These are definitely set up to do that, to break down. So next week, we'll see what next week brings, see if we can get some more breakdowns, and then we will take it from there. Okay, guys, so that's all I have for today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Should do a live stream tomorrow morning, so bring any charts you guys want me to look at, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Take